What do you guys on your side of the ball have to do differently this Saturday night than last Saturday night at the beginning of the game, particularly?
Obviously starting faster than what we did this past Saturday is going to be critical to having success, especially when you go on the road. Even being in an environment like we're going to be in, you can't even expect to have the start that we had this past Saturday and be able to come back the way that we did. What does that take? There's a few plays early in the game that we felt like we had a chance to execute, and I think position group by position group, there's probably a few plays that we all wish we would have had back in that first half, and what that execution looks like, whether that's a missed read, whether that's a missed block, whether that's a run that should have gone someplace or a pass that should have gone to a different receiver. There's a handful of plays I think that we're all kind of reflecting back on in that first half that we would have had every chance to execute early and to be right where we wanted to be, I think, going into halftime. And, for whatever reason, we didn't, and the frustrating part about it is we felt like, some of the same types of plays, same types of concepts in the second half we were able to. So we got to correct that. We got to be better when we take the field this Saturday night.
So let me just to clarify. So it was the performance of the play that more so than changing the script from the previous.
Yeah, I would say so. That's a great question. I think you're always battling that, and I think we're very aware of what we can change about the script itself and the calls itself and the ideas themselves. But in that specific situation, we look back on Sunday morning and we watched 3 plays, 2 runs and a pass that we didn't execute in the first half that we felt like could have been first down plays. So plays that we would have gained a first down, and honestly a couple of them probably explosive plays that 2 of them the same exact call, the other the same exact scheme was called in the second half, and we did a great job of executing and got a couple of explosive plays, made a play on the other one, and so that's why I don't feel like we walked away feeling like they that there was a difference in maybe their plan or difference in how they attacked. They had a couple of really good things that they did on early downs to get us knocked off track, and obviously you get a lot of credit to them. But I did think it came down to just not having composure and executing in the moment when it showed up. And that's a funny thing about football is you never know when those game-changing moments are. You never know when those moments are going to show up. A lot of times you assume that they're going to be somewhere late in the fourth quarter and tie ball game with everything on the line, and it says fourth down and you realize it. But I think for us, it's being able to reflect back on the first third down of the game, the second down of the game. Some of those moments that I thought that we could have won early, and like I said, credit to them, when they had an opportunity, they won their moments, and we ultimately didn't.
I think in that same vein, Matt talked after the game, about Rocco's pick 6 being an option route that I think him and Higgins were just not on the same page.
That's right.
Can you walk us through how that happens and the challenge both those guys have to see the same thing and execute the same thing without being able to communicate?
Yeah. There's a lot that we do throughout the course of a game that we do put options on our receivers' plates and on our quarterback's plate and expect them to be on the same page. Now, I would say the same thing. We're very conscious of not ever having any gray area with that. And on that specific one, I think you hindsight, you talk to both of those guys, and there was clear decisions that, again, same thing. We call the same play in the second half. We go and execute. Jaden runs by the guy on one. He stays on a hitch on one. He slants it. Like, he has multiple options based on those coverages, and you've seen those guys honestly execute the same exact call. And in that moment, for whatever reason, those guys weren't on the same page, which there's no excuse because those not only did we feel like it should have been a first down play, but it results in the dramatic change in the game early on and puts you down. It leads to them obviously scoring points right there, and ends up being one of the biggest plays of the game. So where does that come? How can that improve? Honestly, it's one of those ones. It's like there's not much more to it than like everybody in the building knows what should have been done there, and we got to execute it better in that moment.
What does Steo Klotz's position do for your offense, and how does he operate within it?
Yeah, he number one, he adds a level of physicality to what we do that we feel like gives us an advantage just in how we want to attack defenses. Just the mindset and the mentality that we want to have as an offense. So Steve being on the field from the jump, we feel like is going to add an element of physicality to our offense. Now, what Steve has done a great job of is being able to add more than just, hey, I'm a fullback who can ISO a linebacker. Hey, I'm a lead blocker. Again, it's you see him in the Cincinnati game catch a wheel. You see him make plays out of the backfield. He can line up, detach now, and make plays. And so that's where I think you see him now put pressure on defenses that, man, you can't just box it in and say that, hey, when that guy's in, it's going to be a run, it's going to be an ISO block. He's done so many different things that have helped us as an offense. And, again, first of all, it's physicality, but secondly, it's his versatility to be able to be in different positions and execute at a high level. So, man, he's having a heck of a year. And, early in the season when he wasn't as available, he was kind of battling through some injury. We felt that as an offense, so it's been great, obviously, to have him out there.
As an offense, you guys have talked a lot about wanting to be able to establish the run. You had more success up into the Kansas game where I think you had like 75, 76 total yards. What do you think kind of led to some of the struggles of the rushing offense last weekend? Well,
it's how the game played itself out. Again, you go down by a couple scores, by 3 scores there, you're going to have to, you're going to have to change how you probably anticipated calling the game at that point. So obviously that happens, and you got to be able to adjust there and figure out how to go win the game, when you're in the moment like that. So obviously starting off faster, like Randy's saying, will help us stay on track, stay on rhythm. And then honestly, in the first half, there's a couple of like shoelace plays that, you felt like could have been explosive runs and end up being 4-yard gains. And those guys did a good job of tackling in space. I thought that those safeties going into the game were 2 of the better safeties that we would play against. And really 3, like all 3 of those guys that rotate in, they do a great job tackling their back end. Their corners are physical guys. So we were hoping as the game wore on that we could make those guys miss, that we could break tackles. But, again, credit to those guys and what they did in the back end and prevented some of those maybe explosive runs from a week before to being – 4, 5, 9-yard gains that they're able to knock down in the back end.
And then you talked a little bit about Steve and the physicality that he brings, but what kind of influence has he had and the rest of the tight ends had in the success that the running game has kind of seen up until last week, over the last month or so?
Yeah, those guys, again, because they're able to do, because they're able to block in line, because they're able to lead from the backfield, they're able to block in space. It just allows you to be different. There's not just one way that I feel like we're able to run the ball. Man, we get everybody tight. We jam it up in there. We're only able to run it out to the edge. Those guys can do different things, and they can attack in different ways. Even honestly, even the perimeter blocking. Like Eli had a big run the week before that we had 2 tight ends leading out in space on defensive backs. And that's, a lot of times with those big guys, like it's tough to block smaller guys in space, and them being able to cover guys up and do a great job there. It obviously makes you more versatile in how you run the ball, not just being, boxing in one way of doing it with tight ends on the field.
Dimitri obviously decided to come back for one more year. How would you describe what he's meant to that room, especially maybe before, season high 5 catches came and just that group where Jalen and Jaden are constants, but Daniel's flashed at times, Dimitri's getting catches now, and the tight ends like we talked about?
I felt like I knew it was coming for Dimitri. If you go back and watch his Baylor game the week before, there was a couple opportunities. There was a play that We probably could have hit him in the middle of the field that he would have scored on. There was an opportunity for him to probably get a first down sneaking out of the backfield and making a play. And honestly, we just didn't hit him on that. But in that same game, he probably had some of the most physical blocks on the perimeter. And that's usually just how football works, is that if you just keep sticking to your process, if you just keep your nose down and keep grinding and you don't worry about the results and you don't worry about the catches, you don't worry about the stats, those things end up coming. And I think it was cool to see for him. And obviously he's been through a lot. He's you know, man, he's had a career where probably, like, you go back to his high school, him getting recruited and what he envisioned college football looking like, it hasn't gone to script. And so for him, adversity is not something that, you know, it was going to knock him off track. And so he's persevered through that. And because of that, you know, he has a game like Saturday pop up where he makes a ton of plays. But it's a ton of behind the scenes work that he's put in. It's him sticking to his craft, him being prepared for the moment. And like I said, it's as much as you're around football, when you see guys who they just don't worry about the result, it's a great thing for our young guys to see. If you just don't worry about the result, if you just keep putting your nose down and going to work, good things end up happening. And that's obviously what happened to him on Saturday.
That's it.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.